Let me ask you a question. How much salary do you get every month? How much do you save? And how much is in your savings account right now? Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to The Journey Within, and share it with your friends, because on this channel we share powerful stories about hope, struggle, money, discipline, and the choices that can change a person's life. And this is the story of Joe. Joe was 26 years old, and at 26, he already had more money than most people could ever imagine. But he hadn't earned it, he had inherited it. Joe's parents were among the most successful people in their town. His father had started a small business many years earlier with almost nothing. His mother joined him when the business was still struggling. Together they worked for years. They took risks, they sacrificed, they reinvested their profits, they bought land, they built rental houses, they expanded their company, and slowly, year after year, their small business became a large and respected company. They owned several rental properties throughout the town. They had beautiful homes. They had several luxury cars. They had savings and investments. But despite everything they had, Joe's parents never lived as though money was unlimited. His father often told him, "Son, money is useful when you control it, but if money controls you, it can destroy you." Joe would smile whenever his father said things like that. He didn't really understand. How could he? He had grown up surrounded by comfort. If Joe wanted new clothes, he got them. If he wanted expensive shoes, his parents bought them. If he wanted to eat at a nice restaurant, they paid. If he needed a new phone, there was always money. Joe had never experienced the fear of wondering whether there would be enough money for tomorrow. And because he had never struggled for money, he never learned to respect it. Then, one afternoon, Joe received a phone call that changed his life forever. His parents had been in a terrible accident. They were gone, both of them. Joe couldn't believe it. He sat silently after the phone call, staring at the wall. His mother was gone. His father was gone. The two people he believed would always be there were suddenly no longer part of his future. The funeral was filled with people, relatives, friends, business partners, employees, neighbors. Everyone spoke about Joe's parents. They talked about their kindness, their hard work, their generosity, their determination. People remembered how his father had built the company from almost nothing. And when everything was over, everyone went home. Joe was left alone. But he wasn't left with nothing. He had inherited everything. The company, the rental houses, the land, the luxury cars, the savings, the investments, the family home, millions worth of assets. Joe had become wealthy overnight. But he didn't realize that inheriting wealth and understanding wealth are two completely different things. At first, Joe tried to continue his parents' business. But slowly, his lifestyle began changing. The first change was food. Joe stopped cooking. Why would he cook when he could simply order whatever he wanted? Every morning he ordered breakfast. Every afternoon he bought lunch. KFC, McDonald's, expensive restaurants, food deliveries. Some days he spent money on food without even thinking about it. He would order more than he could finish, then throw the rest away. If someone asked him how much he spent on food, he didn't know. He had never tracked it. He simply thought, "I can afford it." And that sentence became one of the most expensive sentences of his life. Then came shopping. Joe began buying clothes he didn't need, shoes he barely wore, expensive watches, new phones, designer jackets. He would walk into a store and see something expensive. Instead of asking, "Do I need this?" he asked, "Can I afford this?" And because the answer was usually yes, he bought it. His house slowly filled with things that looked impressive, things that made him feel successful. But none of those things made him wealthier. They only made his lifestyle more expensive. Then he started showing off. Joe drove his most expensive car through town. He posted pictures. He bought expensive meals when his friends were around. He wanted people to know that he had money. People noticed. Some admired him. Some envied him. Some wanted to become his friends. And Joe loved the attention. He didn't realize something important. People can be attracted to what your money can provide without being attached to who you are. Joe began spending more time with women too. He became involved with several women, including women who worked around his company. One relationship ended, another began, then another. He enjoyed the attention. He enjoyed feeling wanted, but much of the attention was connected to the lifestyle he could provide. Luxury dinners, hotels, shopping, gifts, trips. Joe didn't question it. He thought money had finally given him everything he wanted. But money can buy attention. It cannot buy genuine love. It can buy company. It cannot guarantee companionship. And it can certainly never replace the parents you lost. But Joe didn't understand that yet. His company began suffering. His parents had built the business around discipline. Every amount had a purpose. Business money stayed in the business. Profits were reinvested. Expenses were controlled. Employees were paid. Future plans were funded. Joe changed everything. He stopped paying attention to the accounts. He didn't make a personal budget. He didn't make a business budget. He didn't know exactly how much he was spending every month. He simply took money whenever he wanted something. The company had money, so Joe spent it. A luxury trip, a new car, a party, a personal expense, another expensive purchase. He told himself, "It's my company," and technically it was. But ownership doesn't mean unlimited spending. A company can belong to you and still be destroyed by your decisions. Soon the accountants started warning him, "Joe, the company's expenses are increasing." Joe didn't listen. Another employee warned him, "Some projects are running short of funds." Joe ignored it. The business accounts were becoming weaker, but Joe was still living like everything was fine. This is how financial destruction often happens, not through one huge mistake, through hundreds of small decisions that seem harmless. A little spending here, another purchase there, another unnecessary expense, another excuse, until one day the numbers become impossible to ignore. Joe eventually opened the company's financial accounts. He stared at the figures. His stomach tightened. Millions had disappeared. Money that his parents had spent years building. Money that should have been used to grow the company. Money that should have protected the business. Money that could have created jobs and new opportunities. Joe had consumed it. He panicked, but instead of changing his lifestyle, he sold one of his luxury cars. The money came quickly, and Joe felt relieved for a moment. But he had learned the wrong lesson. He thought, if I ever need money, I can just sell something. So he continued. Another car was sold, then another, then one of the rental properties. The money came in and disappeared again. Soon another property was sold, then another. Years of his parents' hard work were being converted into cash, and the cash was being converted into a lifestyle. Joe kept telling himself, I'll rebuild later, but later never came. Eventually, the company became too weak to continue operating the way it once had. Joe made the decision that would haunt him for years. He sold the company. The company his father had started with his own hands, the company his mother had helped build, the company that had taken decades to become what it was gone. Joe walked out of the building for the last time. He looked back at the sign. His father's name was still there. Joe stood quietly, and for the first time, he felt ashamed. But even then, he still had money, or at least he thought he did. He spent what remained, until one morning, Joe opened his personal bank account. He stared at the screen. His hands became cold. He refreshed the page. The number didn't change. He checked another account. Almost nothing. Another. Nothing meaningful. Joe sat down. The man who once owned a huge company had become almost completely broke. No company, no rental empire, no luxury cars, no large savings, no investment portfolio, no financial security. And suddenly, the phone that used to never stop ringing was silent. His friends disappeared. The people who used to invite him to expensive dinners stopped calling. The women who used to surround him were gone. People who had once called him their best friend suddenly had other things to do. Joe tried calling some of them. No answer. He sent messages. Nothing. And that night, Joe sat alone in his enormous house. The house was still beautiful, but it felt empty. He looked at the expensive furniture, the large television, the beautiful decorations, and suddenly none of it mattered. He remembered his parents. He remembered his father's tired hands. He remembered his mother working late. He remembered the old days when the company was still small. He remembered watching his father count money carefully. He remembered his father saying, "Son, never confuse looking wealthy by being wealthy." Joe covered his face and began to cry. He cried for his parents. He cried for the company. He cried for the years he had wasted. But most of all, he cried because he finally understood. His parents hadn't failed to leave him wealth. He had failed to protect what they gave him. After some time, Joe stood up. He began looking through old boxes in the house. He wasn't searching for money. He didn't know what he was searching for. Then he found a small box belonging to his father. Inside were some old photographs, a few documents, a pen, and a book. Joe recognized it immediately. His father had given him that book years earlier. Joe had never read it. He sat on the floor, opened it, and found a handwritten note on the first page. His father's handwriting. Joe read, "Son, one day you will understand that making money is only one part of becoming wealthy." Joe's eyes filled with tears. He continued, "Knowing how to keep it is another." Joe turned the page. There were notes about saving, investing, budgeting, compounding, assets, purpose, patience. His father had written, "Never save simply because someone told you to save." Joe paused, then read the next sentence, "Save with a purpose." That sentence stayed in his mind. His father explained that saving without a purpose can become difficult.
But when you give your savings a destination, your behavior changes. Don't simply say, "I want to save money." Say, "I will save this amount to buy this piece of land. Then, I will save this amount to build a rental house. Then, I will save this amount to start a business." A goal gives your money a job. Joe kept reading. Then he reached another page. His father had written, "Do not use your money to purchase things simply because they make you look successful." Joe looked around his house. His expensive belongings suddenly felt different. His father continued, "A luxury car may make people believe you are wealthy, but if it takes money from you every month, it may be moving you further away from wealth." Joe swallowed. Then he read, "Whenever possible, use your money to acquire things that can produce more value. Land, businesses, rental property, skills, assets, investments. Things that could potentially create future income. Not everything you buy is an investment. Some things simply consume money." Joe thought about all the cars he had sold, all the clothes, all the food, all the parties, all the unnecessary purchases. He realized something painful. He had spent money buying things that made him look rich, while selling the things that actually made him wealthy. Then he reached the final lesson. His father had written, "Money grows when you give it time." Joe read about compounding. A small amount could become larger when earnings were reinvested and allowed to grow. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instant. It required patience, consistency, time. Joe closed the book. He sat there silently, then whispered, "Dad, I finally understand." But understanding wasn't enough. Joe had no fortune left, no company, no rental properties, no supercars. He had to start again. And this time, nobody was coming to save him. Joe got a job. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what he was used to, but he accepted it. He began cooking his own food. The first time he made a simple meal at home, he laughed. He couldn't believe how much money he had once spent ordering food. He stopped buying expensive clothes. He stopped trying to impress people. He created a budget. For the first time in his life, Joe knew exactly where his money was going. And when his salary arrived, he didn't ask, "What can I buy?" He asked, "What can this money build?" That question changed everything. Joe began saving, but he didn't save randomly. He saved with a purpose. His first goal was land. It wasn't expensive land. It wasn't a huge property. It was a small piece of land on the edge of town. He saved for months. Sometimes he wanted to spend the money. Sometimes he felt tempted. But whenever temptation came,
He opened his father's book and remembered why he was saving. Eventually, he bought the land. It wasn't impressive. No one congratulated him. Nobody took pictures. Nobody cared. But Joe stood there alone on that small piece of land and smiled, because for the first time in years, he had bought something that could become part of his future. He didn't stop there. He saved again. He used his growing knowledge to start a small business. It was nothing like the company his parents had owned. It was small, simple, but it was his. Joe worked. He saved. He reinvested. He learned. He made mistakes. He corrected them. And when the profits produced, he didn't immediately spend them. He put some back into the business. He saved some. He invested some. He allowed his money to begin working instead of always working against him. Years passed. The transformation was slow. So slow that sometimes Joe wondered whether anything was happening. But something was happening. The small business grew. The land became more valuable. The profits increased. Joe bought another piece of land, then another. Eventually, he built his first rental property. It wasn't luxurious, but it generated income. Joe smiled when the first tenant paid rent. That money wasn't coming from his labor alone. An asset he had built was now producing something for him. And Joe finally understood what his father had been trying to teach him. Wealth isn't only about working harder, it's also about building things that can continue producing value. Joe kept going. He saved, he invested, he reinvested, he compounded, he remained patient. He built another rental property, then another. His small company became larger. His employees grew in number. His reputation returned. But this time, Joe was different. He didn't show off. He didn't need everyone to know how much money he had. He didn't buy a supercar just because he could. He didn't spend thousands on dinner to impress people. He had learned something that his younger self could never understand. Being able to afford something doesn't mean it is worth buying. One day, years after losing everything, Joe stood in front of a new building, a large building, a company headquarters, his company. He looked at it quietly. It was bigger than the company his father had once owned. Joe didn't feel proud because he had surpassed his father. He felt grateful because losing everything had forced him to learn what inheritance never taught him. How to build, how to protect, how to grow, how to wait, and how to use money with purpose. Later that evening, Joe returned home, but this time he wasn't alone. A beautiful woman was waiting for him. She wasn't interested in his cars. She wasn't impressed by his company. She had been there during the years when Joe was still rebuilding. She had seen him when he had very little. She had watched him work. She had watched him fail. She had watched him continue. Joe looked at her and smiled. He had spent years believing that having many women meant having more success. Now he understood the opposite. Having many people around you doesn't mean you are loved. Sometimes one genuine person is worth more than a room full of people attracted to your money. Joe eventually married her, and on the day they stood together in their new home, Joe remembered his parents. He wished they could see him, not because he had become rich again, but because he had finally become responsible enough to understand what they had built. Years later, people would ask Joe, "How did you become wealthy?" And Joe would smile. They expected him to talk about his company, his properties, his investments. Instead, he would say, "I had to lose everything before I understood money." Then he would continue, "Money isn't only about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. It's about what you do with what you keep, and it's about whether the things you buy consume your money or help create more of it." Joe had learned the untold truth. A higher salary doesn't automatically make someone wealthy. If your spending rises every time your income rises, you can earn more and still remain broke. A person can earn a small salary and slowly build something meaningful. Another person can earn a huge salary and spend every cent. The difference isn't always income.
Sometimes it's behavior. So think about your own life. How much do you earn? How much do you save? And how much is actually sitting in your savings account? When your salary arrives, does every dollar already have a destination? Or does your money disappear before you even realize where it went? Are you buying things because you need them, or because you want people to notice you? Are you spending money on things that only consume your income while ignoring opportunities to build assets? Are you increasing your lifestyle each time your salary increases? Because if you earn more but simply spend more, your financial situation may never change. But if your income increases and you allow your savings and investments to increase too, something different begins to happen. Slowly, quietly, over time. You begin building options. You begin building security. You begin building assets. And eventually, your money can begin working alongside you. Remember Joe. He inherited millions and lost them. Then he started again with almost nothing and rebuilt everything. The lesson isn't that everyone will become a millionaire. The lesson is much more important. You don't have to start rich to begin building wealth. You have to start making decisions that protect your future. Save with a purpose. Spend intentionally. Learn before investing. Avoid buying things simply to impress people. Build assets when you can. Let your money compound over time. And don't confuse a luxurious lifestyle with financial freedom. Because financial freedom isn't having the most expensive car. It isn't eating at the most expensive restaurant. It isn't having people envy you. Financial freedom is having enough control over your money that your future isn't destroyed by today's desires.
Joe learned that lesson the hardest way possible. He lost his parents. He lost their company. He lost their properties. He lost his cars. He lost his money. And he lost people he thought were his friends. But through that pain, he discovered something priceless. He discovered that wealth isn't something you simply receive. Wealth is something you must know how to protect and grow. And maybe that's the lesson someone listening to this story needs today. Maybe you don't have millions. Maybe your salary isn't enough. Maybe you're starting with almost nothing. That's okay. Start where you are. Save what you can. Give your savings a purpose. Learn, build, be patient, and stop trying to look rich before you actually become financially secure. because the person who spends everything trying to look wealthy may eventually have nothing left. But the person who quietly builds may one day have something nobody can take away easily. Your future doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to make better decisions again and again and again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. Subscribe to The Journey Within for more powerful stories about life, money, discipline, and personal transformation. And share this story with your friends or family.
Before you leave, tell me in the comments, what is one financial habit you want to change starting today? Maybe it's spending less. Maybe it's saving more. Maybe it's stopping unnecessary purchases. Maybe it's finally giving your savings a purpose. Whatever it is, start small, because your financial future won't be created by one huge decision. It will be created by the small decisions you repeat every single day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.